With his free hand, Randall undid the belt of Julian's trousers and popped open the button. "I have already told you there is no point in screaming," he said, as he lowered the creature until its claws were beginning to brush against the thin material of Julian's boxer shorts, causing the young man to do just that. "And you have to admit that this way the punishment does indeed fit the crime." Julian was about to pass out when Randall's gaze flicked back to the jar and to the blackish fluid streaked down its inside. "Oh, what a shame," he said, the creature still scrabbling to gain purchase on Julian's crotch as he turned to explain. "These little monsters only store up enough poison for one really good bite. We'll have to wait for another couple of hours before he's good to go again." And with that, Randall snatched the creature away, dropped it back into the jar and screwed the lid on. He removed his gloves and stroked his chin in thought. "What on earth am I to do with you now?" he said, turning back to the table. He picked up a rusty saw, twanged the blade, smiled and put it back down. A series of sharpened awls were tested on the pad of his left thumb before being found wanting. And a length of thick rubber tubing, a galvanised bucket and a large metal syringe were connected together before Randall snapped his fingers and left the room. He returned a few moments later with an old-fashioned alarm clock, a roll of copper wire and a junction box. He proceeded to coil the wire around Julian's wrists and ankles and then connected them via the alarm clock to the dusty black transformer, which he then plugged into the mains electricity supply. There is a story about a man who is told that his rather dim-witted 12-year-old son is in fact a genius. And so to test him, he buries a treasure chest filled with chocolate and other sweetmeats, I believe the story says, in the garden, and gives the boy clues. Now, while the lad proves hopeless at thinking laterally, he nevertheless does turn out to be something of a marvel at wiring his dad up to the mains and torturing him to find out where he's hidden the sweeties. Randall set the clock at 5 minutes to midnight. Amazing what some kids will do for chocolate, isn't it? Did you give Angela chocolate? Julian shook his head. "No, I don't suppose you needed to. Giving her quite enough already, I should imagine. Anyway, it suddenly made me think of this, which should pass the time nicely. Or rather, the 5 minutes it will take for the clock to reach 12, the connection to be made, and the current to flow through the wires. I wonder if you'll die from electrocution first, or if there'll be enough time for you to see the wires slice off your hands and feet." He flicked the little metal switch across on the top of the device, and the clock began to tick. "For God's sake, Marcus," said Julian, finally finding his voice. "For God's sake, what exactly?" said Randall, his eyes on the clock face. "You don't have to do this. It's not worth killing me over." "Isn't it?" was the reply after Randall had waited for the minute hand to slide to 3 minutes to. "No, it's not. You're a successful man. You're far more successful than I'll ever be. More successful with money, more successful with women, more successful in life, full stop. Kill me and you'll be throwing all of that away." 2 minutes to. "You mean, rather than mete out my revenge on you, I should perhaps consider finding myself another wife?" said Randall, rubbing his chin as if in contemplation as another 30 seconds slid by. "Someone who might treat me better than Angela did." "Exactly," said Julian. "Let me go, and I swear I won't say a word. And it won't be as if I can prove anything. Besides, I want to be with Jenny. I'm sure of that now. So, in some ways, you'd be the one left with power over me." 1 minute to go. That's true, I suppose," said Randall. "But are you really suggesting that I let you go to live happily ever after with your wife and be without one of my own?" 30 seconds. "I mean, let me go and let yourself go too. Free yourself of her and put this entire incident behind you. No good can come of what you're doing here. But if you let me go, then maybe you can leave this place with a clear conscience." 15 seconds. "A clear conscience, Marcus." 10 seconds. "Not the conscience of a murderer." 5. "A murderer, Marcus. A cold-blooded murderer." 3. "Marcus." 2. "Jesus Christ, Marcus, please." 1. The minute hand slipped across and made the connection. And nothing happened. "I suppose you've got a point," said Randall, straightening up and going over to the junction box. He bent down and picked up the free end of the wire that he had only pretended to attach to one of the contacts. "Had you going, though, didn't I?" he said with a grin. Julian could only stare in dumb shock as Randall began to coil the wire up. "The question is," the older man said as he worked, "have I done enough for you to learn your lesson?" Julian began to nod so fast he felt sick. Yes, oh God, yes!" "Well, that's nice." Randall opened a large leather trunk, piled all the implements he had been using into it, closed the lid and locked it. "Time to put my things away then. Playtime's over." He came over and began to untie Julian's ankles as the younger man stared at him in disbelief. "You're letting me go?" "Oh, yes," said Randall. "I mean, I don't think I'm going to see your face ever again." "Am I?" "God, no, absolutely not," said Julian, as his hands were freed and he was helped unsteadily to his feet. Once he'd stopped shaking, Randall released his grasp and pointed to the door. "You are free to go," he said. "Free to go?" Julian croaked. He took a tottering step towards the exit and then stopped. Surely it wasn't going to be that easy. "What's the matter?" said Randall, washing his hands under the tap in the corner and then drying them on a white cotton towel streaked with red stains. There's something waiting for me out there, isn't there?" Randall put down the towel. "I beg your pardon." Julian's voice was fast becoming little more than a series of choked, terrified sobs. "Something's waiting outside. You've got dogs or something worse." Randall laid a hand on Julian's quivering shoulder. "My dear fellow, allow me to give you my word that the only thing lying in wait for you outside this building is your car, to which this is the key." He held up a shiny fob and pushed it into Julian's palm. Then he went over to the garage door, opened it, and stepped outside. "You see," came his voice, "no Rottweilers, no man-traps, no hidden shower of acid hidden above the doorframe. It is a little chilly out here, though. I would suggest you don't hang around getting to your car or you may catch a bit of a cold. Nothing to fear now. Naughty old Mr. Randall's done everything he's intended to do." Julian halted. "You've cut the brake cables on the car." Randall snorted. "I have done nothing of the sort. Your car is as safe as it was when you drove it here. Anything that happens to you while you're in it is entirely your own responsibility. Go on." Julian was almost through the door, but still something made him hesitate. "Oh, my dear chap, for the last time, I give you my word that nothing else of my doing will befall you this evening. It was merely my intention to scare you. I haven't harmed you, have I?" Julian shook his head. "Despite having ample opportunity, wouldn't you agree?" Julian nodded. "Well, there you are then. Now, hurry along. I want to lock up here so I can get to bed and read something to calm my nerves before turning in." Julian gritted his teeth and took one step forward. 2 steps. 3. And then he was outside. Outside, in the dreary, damp, cold, wonderful night air. He took a deep breath and thanked God. His car was waiting only 10 feet away. As he began to walk towards it, he turned to see Randall watching him go. He was opening the door when a little of the cocky self-assuredness that had got himself into trouble in the first place raised its head. I could always run off with Angela, you know," he said. Randall shook his head. "No, I don't think so," was the reply. "Do you think she'll stay with you?" Now Julian was getting into his car. He put the keys in the ignition, started the engine and rolled down the window. "Well, to be honest, it'll be nice to get back to Jenny and some sense of normality," he called above the noise of the accelerator. "Yes, somehow I don't think that's going to happen either," said Randall, his voice colder. "And why would that be?" said Julian, ready to drive away from this madman and into the arms of at least one woman this evening. "Because, my dear chap," said Marcus Randall, in the tone of a man who had never lost anything in his life, "who on earth do you think we were eating for dinner?"